I think the most important thing to take away from it is, what do I know now? Am I going to repeat the same mistakes? Am I going to allow myself to continue the cycle of dealing with toxic men? Am I going to continue the cycle of having children, having sex? And I think one of the most important things that I had to acknowledge is that in not being taught anything about dating is assuming that dating equaled sex. Dating meant that it had to be both. No, you can date somebody and get to know them and it not be about sex. You can also choose to allow that to be, but it's literally a choice, and it's up to you on whether you allow that as an individual. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I do understand that. And that's something that too has been difficult for me to understand because I am a man. So I view
Okay.
dating different in that aspect. And there's something I've had to learn from the women in my life
Mhm.
is mm, I learned that a lot of times a sexual relationship with a woman was based on she liking you and not wanting you to go somewhere. So she had to have sex
Mm.
with you.
Okay.
I discovered that and which is kind of painful for me as a man, honestly, because I am a man that prides myself on never pressuring a woman.
Mhm.
I never felt like I put a woman in a position where she felt like she had to do whatever with me, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then I was able to think back on certain conversations and situations where it was like, that wasn't the case. Like,
Mm.
she felt pressure, though she didn't mention that she felt pressure. She may not even show me directly that she felt pressure. But as an
Mhm.
older man with my experiences, I can look back on certain situations and realize, nah, she knew that I was sexually active, and she thought that if she didn't sleep with me quickly, that I would
Mhm.
find another woman. And which was true, but
Mhm.
I never I never straight out said something like that. And
Right.
so to maintain that attention, a woman put herself in a compromising position or may do something that she wasn't ready for and she knew she wasn't ready for. But, you know, I like you and I want to continue to like you and want to actually date you. So here you go.
Mhm.
And in situations realizing that because it was very difficult, and this will be getting to a more sensitive conversation, of course, of understanding the different ways a woman may view a sexual encounter as rape and
Mhm.
how the pressure that a man can apply where he feels like he is only trying to turn her on sexually, essentially.
Mm.
Um, but really what you're doing essentially is applying this pressure to her to
Mhm.
where she might give it to you, but it wasn't because she was turned on. It was because, yeah, this nigga could hurt me. This man could, he could not like me anymore because I say no and I hold to that. He could talk bad about me later on. Like he could
Mhm.
rape me if he wanted to. So
Mhm.
before it ever even gets to that point, I'll give myself to him so that way I don't, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, as a man, if you don't have those conversations with a woman, with multiple women to understand that pressure, like, and I think that was the beginning of me starting to understand just women in general more so in that perspective, because I was arguing very hard against anything of the sort being considered rape. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
Mhm.
Like, he didn't put his hands on her. He da da da. What are you talking
Right.
about?
Right.
And then
Right.
understand, okay, it's now don't get it confused. I don't feel like that's rape to the extent that a man should be going to prison, but I feel like it is rape to an extent that we should be educating our young men to not
Yes.
do these things because it is still taking advantage of a woman. And
Mhm.
yes, you may need to put some sort of consequence behind this,
Mhm.
but I am personally am not one for punishing anybody for things that they are uneducated about.
Mhm.
I'm saying, so I wouldn't say to that full extent, but I will say to the extent that it is definitely necessary for these conversations to be had, and
Absolutely.
for young men and women, of course, to be educated in these situations where our young women know, hey, we don't have to do these things, and we don't have to conduct ourselves in this way to garner the attention or maintain the attention of any person. That's something I had to be aware of too, because I can be like, a woman with me could feel like she's in absolute danger, and the whole time in my mind, I feel like she's in the safest place she can be because I'm a protector.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter because she don't know that. Like she
Yeah.
don't know, and having to get that understanding. Anyway,
Mhm. Yep. You know, you said a key thing, the education that is provided concerning this subject, because I know for me, it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized that rape didn't necessarily have to be violent,
yes,
that there didn't have to be any type of violence in
mhm,
order for sex to be unwanted. That was literally all rape encompasses, it being unwanted
yes,
or unwanted sex. And it's interesting because that communication is so important, especially as a woman. Now, I've grown to a place where I don't have a problem communicating that I don't want it, or that I don't want you to touch me a certain way, or whatever. I think that maturity has brought me to this place, because there's this element of not really caring whether or not he's going to respond a certain way. I'm ready to defend myself if I have to.
Of
But
course.
I understand that a lot of women don't see it that way, or don't want to invite a negative response. And so they go along with it because they want to. And I have even in the past told myself, if it ever happened, I would just let it happen and not rock the boat, or not, but I got to a place where, and this was the personal power thing, I don't have to allow anything that I don't want. Now, that doesn't mean that they might not, that they won't try to take it anyway, but I have a choice to fight for myself.
Yes.
And so that is the choice that I have made as an individual. And my goal is to help other women understand you don't have to be driven by your fear. You don't have to be driven by the possibility of what's going to happen. And here's another piece for me. And you talked earlier about how you teach your children to pay attention to people's character. That has become extremely important to me, because when I vet the character, and obviously people can have personas and they can put on and that whole thing, but in learning to be led by my spirit, I feel like I have come to a place of being able to tell whether or not somebody's being forthcoming, or whether or not they're like, I can literally feel if something isn't right. And so I don't put myself in a situation where I'm by myself with a person who things just don't, like, I feel something just don't feel right about this situation. And I think my healing has allowed me to get to this place, because that's the thing about going through trauma and carrying just the pain and the suffering of going through these difficult relationships, is it literally creates these layers that prevent you as a woman from being able to feel the things that you need to know and understand in order to navigate life. Intuition is literally a survival tool. Your intuition is not going to lead you where you're not going to thrive. And so I believe it's important for women to go through the healing process, so that when they feel those things, they know, okay, maybe I shouldn't go here with him, or maybe I shouldn't end up by myself with this person. And reality is, we cannot prevent everything. I'm not saying that this means that you will never end up in a compromising situation. But I feel like when you are intentional about working through the things that you need to heal from, it uncovers layers that are covering your ability to feel and navigate situations that could potentially save your life.
It don't make no difference what you say about it. No, no, things can't stay the same. No, no.